Good morning. Good morning. Please join us as we get together, sing together, rather. I'm not doing this.
Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Portland, whether you are here in the sanctuary or here via our live stream. We are a multi-generational community where you are invited to grow in spirit, and each of us is invited to grow in our collective capacity to build the beloved community. I have a few important announcements. A special welcome to our visitors. If you are here for one of the first times or your very first time, please join Reverend Tom and Jen Thomas, our Membership Engagement Coordinator, for a brief welcome and check-in immediately following the service right here in the North Gallery of the Sanctuary. They can answer some initial questions that you might have and let you know about upcoming opportunities that you can get involved with, and then help you navigate your way towards Fuller for our coffee hour following the service. After today's service, we are going to have a special gathering to make space for lamentation and community in the face of world events and in the face of what's happening here in our country. These are not easy times. The devastating losses of lives of Palestinians, of Israelis, the continuing war between Ukraine and Russia, and the continuing dysfunction in our government are but some of what is happening. Join Tom and me for a gathering at noon in Elliott Chapel, where we will make space for all of us to share our grief, for silence, for speaking, and for finding hope in community. Many of you shared through the community conversations that you were hoping to connect with our interfaith networks and neighbors here in the Portland area and our state. Today, we are delighted to welcome Frank So, the new Executive Director of Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon, to our pulpit. Before accepting this position, he worked in the office of the Vice President at the White House, advising her office on trips outside of the continental United States. He also previously worked for President Obama as a presidential associate, where he traveled in advance of the president to help ensure effective state functions on the ground. And I want to lift up, some of us had a chance to hear Frank at a recent Alliance presentation. And one of the areas that is near and dear to his heart are challenges related to conflict and human migration. A lifelong Catholic, Frank was educated by Jesuits and Sisters of St. Mary's of Oregon, and he is pleased to be back home in the Pacific Northwest. Fluent in Spanish, Frank is a first-generation American. His mother was born in Peru and his father in Thailand. Will you join me in welcoming him warmly? And now I would love to invite Julia Spence to come forward, a leader in our community, and I can share also the chair of the Board of Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon, and she's going to share our testimonial for this morning about sharing our heart's treasure, the campaign for 2024. Hopefully you've received your packet, or it may arrive in tomorrow's mail.
First Unitarian has been my church home for 40 years. I've been involved in a number of groups and activities over that time, including the bookstore, adult religious education, planning celebrations, the Alliance, large church conferences, and General Assembly. George Crandall and I co-chaired the building committee when the Buchanan building was completed almost 20 years ago now. Not only have these activities allowed me to give some of my professional skills, but they've allowed me to learn and grow, and I've made wonderful friends here. My family moved a lot when I was growing up. My dad worked for a corporation that transferred people up and down the West Coast. One of the first things my parents did when we moved was to find a new church. Although they'd been raised in different Protestant denominations, they settled on the Presbyterian Church for us. Dad often served on church boards and was the treasurer. Mom sang in the choir and played piano. My brother and I attended Sunday school, Wednesday evening children's activities, and went to church camp. We all made friends. We belonged. When I was in grade school, our church asked children to pledge. Do any of you remember the little envelopes that yes, head nods, where we'd put our pennies and our nickels in, and they had the dates stamped on the front of each one? We knew we were helping. I can still remember a slogan from a world mission campaign that we children funded from our church. This is probably 1955, I would guess. And the campaign chair was one of the Sunday school teachers who had a chant that she taught us, and it was, "Chicks for the people of Ecuador." We just knew we were buying all of the chickens that people needed. As a freshman in high school in 1962, I took a world religions class with Dad through the Greater Portland Council of Churches, the precursor to Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon. A larger view, finding new friends among other churches, sharing values among people of different faiths. It gave me a lot to think about. It was wonderful to do that with my dad. I've been actively involved in Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon for 20 years, serving on committees, the board, and this year as the board chair. The church and ecumenical ministries are the two groups which I'm able to give my time, my talent, and my treasure, all three. I love pulling together toward shared goals and finding friends with shared values. One of the shared goals we have right now is to fund next year's ministries. All we do together here in our community and in the wider world. I hope you will join me in giving a generous pledge for your circumstances so our spiritual home can remain strong. And for any of you who are able to make a sustaining pledge, committing to multiple years, you can always change it if you need to. It really helps the church to plan and to grow and to make sure that we've got good information for what's needed. Thank you.
And now I invite you to turn to your neighbors and to greet them warmly. And now Julia Spence will light our chalice. And if you are joining us from home, we invite you to light a chalice or a candle along with us. We are Unitarian Universalists. We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
It's going to be good. It's lifting up the love that freezes, and you hear the music playing, and you see the people praising. Just forget about your worries, leave your troubles far behind you. Don't you wait another minute, just get up and on your feet and get to dancing, singing, jumping, leaping, get to shouting, make it loud and make it glorious. Start rejoicing, praising, lifting, raising, get to shout, make it loud and make this praise glorious, glorious. When you come into this presence, lifting up the love that freezes, and you hear the people praising, and you hear the music playing, just forget about your worries, leave your troubles far behind you. Don't you wait another minute, just get up and on your feet and get to dancing, singing, jumping, leaping, get to shout, make it loud and make it glorious. Start rejoicing, praising, lifting, yeah, 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 oh yeah. Make this praise, lifting, singing, jumping and leaping, get to shout, make it loud and make it glorious. Start rejoicing, yeah, 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 oh yeah. Make this praise glorious, glorious. Here's what we're created for. I was created to make a praise glorious. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. I was created to make a praise glorious. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. To make my praise glorious. Oh, yeah. I was created to make my praise glorious, glorious. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Glorious. Make His praise glorious.
hard to follow. That was pretty glorious. Thank you. Well, our call to worship today is from Ibn Arabi, entitled, "There Was a Time." There was a time I would reject those. There was a time I would reject those who were not of my faith. But now, my heart has grown capable of taking on all forms. It is a pasture for gazelles, an abbey for monks, a table for the Torah, Kaaba for the pilgrim. My religion is love. Whichever the route love's caravan shall take, that shall be the path of my faith. Thank you.
Our responsive reading, the words by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied to a single garment of destiny.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted.
Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that.
We must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation.
The foundation of such a method is love.
Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds which precipitate and perpetuate war.
One day we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal.
We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means.
We shall hew out the mountain of despair, a stone of hope.
May it be so. Will you join in singing our doxology together?
Sing in my heart, all the
We are sharing our offering in October with longtime community partner Outside In. Since Outside In's founding in First Unitarian's basement in 1968, Outside In has supported youth experiencing homelessness and other marginalized people as they move towards improved health and self-sufficiency. Driven to meet the changing needs of those it helps, the agency has created an all-inclusive and integrated system of cutting-edge and sometimes controversial wraparound services that has transformed and saved thousands of lives in our city. If you would like to donate via check or cash, our ushers will be coming around in just a moment. If you would like to give electronically, you can find the QR code on the screen and also on the yellow slips in one of the racks in front of you. If you are on Boxcast, you can also use the Donate Now button. Thank you for your generosity to this, our neighboring organization. It will make a difference. That was beautiful. And I'll just say that I always like to say that when a cell phone speaks aloud, it means that something that's happening is very important. So I thought the cell phone said something like amen. And this is an opportunity to silence your cell phones. And in particularly, we don't want to hear serious amens, not today anyway. It is the time in our service where we honor the milestones that have happened in the lives of our fellow congregants. Some we share aloud, and some you offer through prayers written in our galleries and through emails. And our ministers, our lay ministers, our staff, and all of you, many of you, hold the prayers of our people throughout the week. I want to name that it is the last day for you to send names of loved ones who have passed away in the last year to be included in our All Souls Litany next Sunday. You can send the names to remembrance at firstunitarianportland.org, and that email was also in this week's Front Steps. So let us prepare our hearts for that Litany of All Souls next week. We have 2 memorial services that we wanted to share. A memorial will be held tomorrow afternoon, October 23rd at 2 p.m. for member Joanne Booth, who died on October 6th at the age of 87. It will be held at Calaroga Terrace, where she lived for the last few years. And second, a reminder of a memorial service for Joe Roberts, husband of Marguerite Cohen, will be held at the Reed College Chapel in Elliott Hall on Saturday, October 28th at 2 p.m. We hold these families in our hearts. I invite you into a time of reflective meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, teach us to be like the trees in the fall, to shed what is holding us back from a new season and the next phase of growth. May we shed the human tendency to form factions that separate us from the truth. We are one human family. May we shed greed, fear, ignorance, pettiness, and any and all ways of being that lead us to be less than we could be. May our shedding lead to a carpet of multicolored beauty beneath our feet that beckons us to move forward on the path of becoming. Still and quiet enough to hear the voices of love and what they ask of us. Compassionate and wise enough to see our tears reflected in those we once called enemy. Ready for the work of repair and reconciliation. May each season bring gifts of growth, for after we let go, after the ceasing of all that separates us from what is holy, after we embrace change, then finally new life begins. At first, barely discernible, then come the buds, and then a season of flowering. But let us not rush past this season of letting go, followed by dormancy and death, lest we miss any of its precious lessons about leading a life that matters. These and so many more are our prayers. Amen, and blessed be, and may it be so. And now I invite you into a moment of sacred silence. Let us fill up the sanctuary with our own prayers. Our reading is Desiderata by Max Ehrmann. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others. Even to the dull and the ignorant, they too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive them to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world.
When you're blinded by tears and consumed by your fears, and the daytime is turned to night, you may be unaware, but there's people who care, and they're leading you to the light. Like an island out on the sea. But that's the enemy's way of making you doubt, 'cause we promised we'd never leave. Won't you hold on, right tight? We won't leave you. Let you fall in your darkest hour.
leave me. Promise never to leave me. Promise never to leave me. Promise never to leave me. Alone. Promise never to leave me. Promise never to leave me. Alone. Promise never to leave me. Promise never to leave me. Alone. Promise never to leave me.
Never leave.
Promise never to leave me. Alone. Promise never to leave me. Promise never to leave me. Alone. Promise never to leave me.
Promise never.
Promise never to leave me. Alone. Promise never to leave me.
That was beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for welcoming me here today. The reading that you heard today, for those of you who know a little bit of Latin, desiderata, the Latin word which we know in English to represent desire. If you speak Portuguese, there's a great word too. It's called saudade. It's that longing for, that desire for. It was written about 100 years ago by a gentleman named Max Ehrman. And it was Max's hope that we would have a desire to call out the things that were deep in our hearts. And in his words, that too. In his words, the noise, the haste. To seek out what we long for, knowing what we're calling out, which is deep in our hearts. It was written right after the First World War, a war that was won and left so many broken. Ehrman sought to find what that generation longed for, and he said in those few words, to speak truth, to be humble, and yet to know that each one of us has a right to be here. That we recognize that there may be things that are not clear to us, and yet we long for being part of something much, much greater than ourselves. I think back sometimes to being in high school and thinking, wow, these teachers, they've got everything in line. Are there any teachers here? All right. Great. And you know, you're a student in any classroom and you look at your teachers and they've got a plan and they go through the classwork and you think, they've got it all down. They know exactly what they're doing. Fast forward, get to college, you go visit your high school teacher, and they say, "These kids are driving me nuts. I don't know what I'm going to do today." I said, "But didn't you always have a plan?" "Oh no, I made it up as I went along." Some things are not clear to us, but in the end, there's a greater plan that works out. We long for that beautiful world that truly does exist. It does. This poem was something that I needed, something that resonated with me 2 weeks ago now, as we saw the attack and horrific loss of life in Israel. I'm going to call it out, as Max Ehrman asks. I'm going to call out sadness, fear, rage, and anxiety. I have anxiety about what's going on. Similar feelings came to mind when I knew more lives would be taken as a country declares war on a territory. No doubt, whatever source that you read, thousands are dead, more are dying, most are innocent civilians. As a leader of a nonprofit, to which Julia is my boss, we had discussions about, do we put out a statement? I have to be honest, at first I was fearful and I said, no. We don't need to put out a statement. It's far too complex. We had calls from other nonprofits, friends to our faith institution, and an organization that's based on faith values as an ecumenical group. Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon, or as we call ourselves, EMO for short, has dealt with, it's a funny name, has dealt with working, trying to advance the peace in Israel and Palestine. We have taken groups in the past, some of you have mentioned the Reverend Dr. Rodney Page, who led EMO for many years, who just turned 88 last week, and has taken groups, various groups, to the Holy Land. So a statement would have to be drafted. If any of you have been in that world of having to make public statements or been advisors to anyone who's had to make public statements, you'll know when an atrocity is committed that any statement writing is not easy. In fact, it's very hard. Emotions are high. Because of the history, especially in the Middle East, it's far more complicated than black or white. Will it be ever enough for either party? Probably not. Could it offend someone? Very likely so. And yet, it needs to have impact. Or what's the purpose of even making a statement? In this reading, in Max Ehrman's poem, there are a few things that I took away to guide us in that process of what to say when something is so tense, so deep within us. Be at peace with God, Max Ehrman says. How can I be at peace with God? Are God's kids not fighting? Where is God in this? It was a wrestle. It was a real wrestle of faith. As someone who's not a Jew, someone who's not Muslim, I grappled with this. And then someone said to me, "Frank, have you spoken with the Christian Palestinians that are in Portland? Have you spoken with the Muslim Palestinians that are in Portland?" And then another thought came to mind, perhaps a realization as we spoke as a team, that perhaps this is not a war of religions. God is not in the politics. It's greater. Our faith is greater than politics, the weapons, or the rage. Yet immediately, did you talk to the Jews? Did you talk to the Muslims? There's another part of the poem that Max guides us to say, well, where do we find our faith? Where is our spirituality in this? In that reading, with all this sham and drudgery, which, by the way, drudgery is a great word. We need to use it more often. Speak truth. Listen to others. Be humble. For me, God, my faith, is that voice inside of me asking me to be better. It is that voice of truth that you know is within you when emotions are high and yet there's something telling you, ooh, don't go over there. Hold back that last word because you really don't mean it. God would want us to put the shame and the drudgery aside and speak to truth, to listen to others. So as we thought about what to say about the war in the Middle East, this is what we said. Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon grieves with the families who have lost loved ones to the horrific acts of violence in both Israel and Palestine. We know that many Oregonians here are feeling fear, pain, anxiety, especially those who have been directly impacted. We are also concerned that what is happening thousands of miles away could cause a rise in anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim sentiments here in the United States. Friends, we're seeing that now. There's no doubt. We continue to say, we must not give in to hate. And sometimes it's not what you do, it's what you don't do. And in this case, we must rise against hate. Terrorism and war can never lead to a just and sustainable peace. EMO calls upon our leaders to promote de-escalation, secure dialogue, pursue policies that will achieve that long thing that we want, and that is a just peace. 100 years ago, when this poem was written, the reading that we heard today, anxiety was at an all-time high. I would venture to say it is again. No matter what faith you come from, there is something special about that land, and there is something deeply concerning about that conflict. As we go to lunch, dinner tonight, see our friends, our neighbors, our family, let's call out what we feel. Let's be honest with each other. Let's discuss it, but in a way that we listen, in a way that we honor truth. Let me be reminded of another lesson that I learned in high school from my teachers. Yes, sometimes you wing it. But one thing that we learned during that phase of high school, when boys started liking girls more, when we were worried about what image we were portraying, when emotions were high and we were curious about who we were, we reminded ourselves that feelings, emotions that we were starting to develop, that any feeling is appropriate to have. There's nothing wrong with feeling any one way, especially the young people out there. Feel any way you want to feel. It's what we do with those feelings that matters. Let me repeat that again. Feel any way you want to feel. It's what you do with those feelings that matters. Ask our neighbors, how are you doing? And then also ask them, where are you getting your information from? Is it truth? There's so much out there that is not. Max Ehrman asked 100 years ago, what do you most long for? Today, let us ask ourselves, what do we most long for? I know we long for, and I know we will work towards love.
And now in our going, let the light of love and the stars and the best that resides in humanity and divinity shine down upon us and radiate out from within us. May it be gracious unto us and make of all of us peace builders. For this is the day that you and I are given. So let us rejoice in it and be glad. Go with peace alive in your hearts. Practice love. Amen.